Okay. Sorry, I'm a little late popping on here. Hope everything's working all right. I've had some issues with my audio. I need to get new headphones is what I really need. And I can't do the in-ear ones because I'm prone to ear infections if I get that going on. So I need to get some replacements. But I think we have a plan, which is cool because I was in a crappy mood today. I've had some health issues over the last 24 hours that set the table for my mood to be a bad thing today. And then somehow, in the process of doing some of the planning for Opportunity Forge, I gave myself a real good hard look at how impossible some of my hopes and dreams are. And that really wrecked my mood. So, moving a little bit past that at this point now, I actually saw a few things out there that inspired me in the last couple hours, and then I got sidetracked to the point where I'm a little late getting on here tonight. It's probably going to be a short one because I had like 3 hours of sleep last night because I'm waking up with panic attacks again for no apparent reason. So that's always fun. So let's see, where were we? Okay, so Opportunity Forge. Or did I? Yeah. Okay, that's not what we were looking. So I was basically crunching some numbers earlier, so I'm trying to find the file that. Okay, so with Opportunity Forge, one of the things we have is I was looking at the investing and entrepreneurship one, and I got to thinking, and I got really excited about the prospect of the idea of setting the goal to be $0 to $60,000 in 60 weeks or a year or however long it takes us to get to that point. But that is a challenge I cannot start in my current circumstances. There are limits on what I can do, and I have to line up replacements for some of the infrastructure I have in my life to work around those limitations. And so I can't really do that from the ground running sort of perspective. But with some of the new thinking I've been going through this evening, it may be possible to do the 0 to 60K pattern. So starting from my ground zero, which is different from other people's. As somebody with a chronic disabling condition, there are things I need access to that other people could get by without. Healthcare is one of the particular issues. For me to pay insurance or out-of-pocket costs for any health insurance is not economically feasible on any kind of income budget. And so in order to get those, I have to sign up for certain programs, and those programs put a cap on how much I'm allowed to take in at a given time before I lose those benefits. So it's sort of a bit of a trap. Now, it's something that I've been trying to think about ways to escape for years. And the hard part is getting from where I am to escaping that. There is a huge gap. So what I'm able to earn that can cost me those benefits that manage my health in a way that I can't afford to do otherwise, that cap that I can earn and then it cuts out those benefits stops here. But the point at which I will be able to financially sustain my own health and well-being, as well as quality of life without those benefits, is over here. So I'm going to have to build on a plan that can get me a lot of backup and support from here so that I can take that 6 months, year, 2-year gap in stride when I have to hit it. And then from there, I could plan around it and just go over the top of that. So building that savings within the boundaries of the limits that we currently have is not infeasible. It's just really difficult to achieve, especially with the limits of what I can take in to build that cushion to protect myself with. But with that in mind, it's possible, and I think it would be educational to do a series on how hard it is to live off of the foundations that I'm starting on, the options available for somebody like me or in another similar situation to save towards a future. Because I know there are some things, but those are going to be more along the lines of, if you start now, in 10, 20, or 30 years, could you have built up enough to see to your end of life needs, I guess, at that point. And there may be ways to try that out and explore. And if they aren't achievable, or if they aren't a viable mechanism for getting somebody to a state of independence, then it's important to show that. Like, the system is definitely set up in a way that makes it nigh impossible to get out of it. And what you're living like while you're in it isn't exactly the ideal situation either. So that's one of the things that I can do as a changeover. So in that case, it would be 0 to 60,000, or more likely what you need to be independent on the same level as what those benefits can cover for you would be something on the order of 0 to $200,000 to $300,000, and that's likely to be something that occurs in the course of 10 to 15 years. So that would be what you're setting up, is 10 to 15 years of work investing and saving towards those benefits at a certain time. What does that look like? How hard is that process? I could cover some of that stuff. It's probably not as interesting, but it wouldn't hurt me to start that process anyway, even if I find and pursue another option at another level. So that's one of the things that's possibly a change that needs to be taken care of. But looking at the Opportunity Forge projects, the YouTube channel from scratch, 0 to 60 weeks, is predominantly what I think we're looking at, is something that we can do easily enough. Investing in entrepreneurship, like I said, is going to be hard. The learning process ones are going to be fairly easy. The monthly challenges, 60 weeks of 60 weeks of 30-day challenges. And the May one was I was looking at the dates. That was see if I can get my brain back on track here. On April 7th, if I start Opportunity Forge channel on the 7th of April, that means on June 1st, 2022, we will reach the 60-week mark. If we do April 27th, 2021, for the start of the 60 weeks of monthly challenges, then we will finish that on June 21st, which is the summer solstice for that summer solstice game jam. So the June monthly project this year will be a game jam. And that game jam will be probably a computer game. Maybe a board game. I haven't decided yet. But whichever one I do, in the subsequent year, I'll do the other one. And therefore, we've done 2 different versions of that. That means that we've got April 27th as the start. We'll propose the May project, which is making a photo book. June would be Game Jam. July, independent film. August is a taste test every day. September is Paint-tember, I think. And October is Skitober. So making skits. November was Penultimate. And then December was the Invent calendar, invent things. Then January would be animation. February would be the alphabet project again. March would be marching to your own tune. April would be April fooling around, which at that point, it's this coming April. I'm not sure whether I'm doing stand-up comedy or magic routine. I may try both. But so next April would be either of those again, or if I only do one this time around, then I'll do the other one next time around. April. And then May would be the making photography project again. I'm not sure yet. I could do a fine photo series in like an art gallery, like a fine art photography series. But I'm not sure that's where I want to go. And I sort of have this idea of making calendars, like photographic calendars, in a fun way. So like the photo book would be a series of photos compiled into a book and sold as a photo book on Amazon or something like that. But doing a series of calendars would be a slightly different kind of project, and I can kind of see having some fun with that. So I think that might be the way I do it. So this year it will probably be a photo book, and next year for making a photo project part 2, that will be possibly calendars. I have a year to figure it out, so I'm not particularly worried about it right now. And then the second June that we do would be the other type of game that I don't do this year. So that works. It works reasonably well. So what that means is if I start the channel on April 7th, that should mean that by June 1st, 2022, will be 60 weeks of channel life. 0 to 60, YouTube channel from 0 to 60 weeks. Where did we get in that time? Now, part of what I was doing over here for a second was seeing, I think I may have a copy of my YouTube play button idea on this computer over here. And I want to see if it'll pull it up. Inspired content play buttons. Woo-hoo-hoo. I do in fact have a copy of it over here. Nice. So I didn't lose it in the crash. I had backed it up at some point, which thank heaven I do some of that sometimes. It's one of the things I need to pay very close attention to so it doesn't happen again. So we've got $10 subscribers would be paper, 20 would be cotton, 30 would be leather, 40 would be fruit and flowers, 50 would be wood, 60 would be sugar, 70 would be wool, 80 would be salt, 90 would be terracotta, 100 would be aluminum, 200, I hadn't quite figured out how to get around the fact that the only reference for that was cotton again. Because what we did is there were a couple lists of like the anniversaries. Like the first anniversary is paper, but it can also be aluminum. And so what I did was I did the first round of 10 through 90, the 2-digit numbers, as one version of many of those things. And 100 through 1,000 is a second set of those. So we have aluminum, cotton again, glass, linen, wood, again being repeated. So wood is 50, but I may be able to play with some of that a little bit. Then 600 is iron instead of sugar, which was 60. And then 700 would be copper. 800 would be copper instead of wool. And then bronze instead of salt. And then pottery instead of terracotta. It's sort of pushing the edge of the same thing. But then you move into the thousands. At 1,000 subscribers, it would be tin. Then steel instead of iron at 600. Silk, lace, ivory, crystal, china, brass instead of bronze. Marble, opal, silver, pearl, jade or coral, ruby, sapphire, gold, amber, electrum, and then I have a couple gaps. I think the 6 million subscriber button is blank and the 8 million subscriber button is blank, but the diamond play button comes at 10 million, and the platinum play button I believe comes at 30, and then the custom one that they gave out to a very few would be 50 million subscribers. So there are a couple holes in the after electrum which I hit, but that's going to be at a point where, like, if you have 4 million subscribers, you're at electrum. You don't have to worry till 6 million subscribers and 8 million subscribers what to do for those. I got time. And once we get past, I think it's 1,000 to 10,000 subscribers, once we get past that point, I can leave it as a poll to the audience as to what they think would be something that fit in that category. So that starts us off with trying to get from 0 to 60 would be paper, cotton, leather, fruits and flowers, wood, sugar, and that's 0 to 60 subscribers. Now, if we tack on to that and keep going, I believe we have 60K, which would be marble. Now that was a different list than the Roving Jack play button ideas, which was based off of Mythical Alchemy and their medals. So, and it worked out really well. The silver play button has 100,000 subscribers, and the gold play button, what was gold? I think that was 1 million, right? Gold is 1 million. So 1 million, and silver was 100,000. And so we crept down the scale. If we go down that further, we get, I think it was 10,000 would have been mercury, 1,000 would be copper, 100 would be iron, 10 would be tin, and 1 would be lead. And that's the metal sequence in alchemy. If you look at it, you start with lead, it becomes tin, and then it becomes iron, copper, mercury, silver, and gold. That's the hierarchy of the passage of transmutation from lead to gold. And that was the path. And I said, it fits really well, because if you have the gold play button at 1 million and you just move 1 decimal point over for each of them, there are only 7 decimal points. There are only 7 alchemical metals: lead, tin, iron, copper, mercury, silver, gold. Ta-da! And I'm like, okay, I can see doing that. That works really nicely. This one does things a little bit differently. Silver and gold, I believe, are still at the same spots. Platinum would be above that, and the diamond one is above that. And I think we had to play a little bit with some of that for some of the anniversary numbers. Like, I forget what a diamond anniversary is, but we had to play around with a little bit of wiggle room to make it fit that pattern, and it left us with some holes towards the top. So we have to figure out at some point 6 million, 8 million, 20 million, and 40 million. But other than that, I think we got it pretty good. Oh, and I got to fix down here at the bottom the redundancy of wood and the redundancy of cotton. I got to figure out how to fix that. And other than that, I think that would be a fun thing to do for Opportunity Forge. I was originally going to do it for this channel, but this isn't really a crafting channel, I don't think. Maybe I could do it for both. I don't know. We'll see. Because I know we have the art challenges. And I feel like we could play a little bit with some of the art challenges on this channel. But that's not really the focus of what we're going to do on here. What we're going to do here is going to be more of the review and ratings of certain things. Oh, and then there's the for things like the taste tests, instead of prompts, they would be sort of improvisational, culinary improvisation is what I called it once before. So give it a try and then share a recipe, and doing something equivalent to that for the artwork stuff is sort of part of the list, part of the list of things to try to do. Okay, so that was basically breaking down most of what I was working on for Opportunity Forge. I feel like I'm missing some data somewhere. It might be in a secondary file. What do we got? No, so no. My February challenge, we did that. Side hustle. I was building a list of some of those side hustle things for Opportunity Forge to try out, because that's what I think we'll probably do at first. I will do some sort of investing from ground zero for people who have a system like I have that limits what they're able to do, and sort of start that process and set that up. But then I'm hoping that I can do well enough with some of these projects. So we've got things like flipping Instagram accounts, selling items on Facebook Marketplace, reselling vintage items, social media manager for small businesses, freelance graphic design, online tutorial calls, or online tutoring calls, not tutorials, doing online classes, copywriting, web design services, video editing, e-commerce business, like drop shipping and Amazon fulfillment by Amazon or Shopify or those types of things. Selling digital products, so a digital goods marketplace of ebooks and online courses and things like that. Affiliate marketing, and then developing your own brand. There's investing in dividends, selling products online, real estate investing, not necessarily ownership. But there is also the possibility of exploring at a certain point, purchasing a property that you could Airbnb out or rent out. And then there are other versions of some of these things that you can try. So setting up a Patreon for your YouTube account, or YouTube ad revenue. Like, some of these things seem to have multiple approaches that you can take more than one pass at it to give it a try. And then there are things like selling online journals through Kindle Direct, or not Kindle Direct, through Amazon Print on Demand. So that's apparently a place to work. They're called low content books. So they'd be like an empty journal or a day planner, or like a gratitude journal, or things like that. And then there's like slightly more content than those would be publishing coloring books through Amazon. I'm led to understand that those types of content can be quickly produced and sold on Amazon for some income. Now, how much of that kind of thing is based off of the idea that you have a following who will hunt down the things that you're offering? I don't know. It's sort of one of my pet peeves about things like the Shopify drop shipping stuff, is you get a lot of people who are out there talking about how, like, oh yeah, drop shipping is the new way to make a lot of money on. Like, is it though? Because that seems like a bit of a gamble the way most people frame it, and that gamble ends up with a it's not as big a gamble as it sounds at first. Like, you're not buying thousands of a product and then getting them shipped to you, then shipping them out when people place orders on them, if people buy your stock. If they don't, drop shipping is more along the lines of, like, you find a deal on one site, you basically save the link to that, and you go make a listing on Amazon or eBay or something like that. And then when somebody orders from you, you order from the other site and have it shipped directly to them. So you never have to store it. You never have to do any of that stuff. You only buy when you have somebody buy from you. You're just working as a middleman. You just have to keep in mind that you're going to buy your inventory from a place where you can get it cheaper than the most common marketplaces like eBay and Amazon have them listed for. There's also selling things on Amazon. Like, we have people come into the store I work at on a regular basis and will buy hundreds of things from our store, send it to Amazon, and list it up in their Amazon shop. People buy it off of Amazon, and Amazon fulfills it. That's fulfillment by Amazon. That can get a little tricky because you can end up paying to have it stored at the Amazon warehouse if it doesn't sell within a certain period of time. But I would like to try a lot of those things. Most of those are going to be dabbling and hopefully not losing a large amount. I would like to think that by the end of at least several of those ideas, I would not be out more than $100. And I'd like to think that at least one or two of them would pan out to the tune of $20 to $30, so that I could kind of break even with the whole experiment and find paths that look like they're viable options for me. And once we've done that, then I can sort of like keep going with the ones that I do. But each one of those should be a 60-day project. Because I feel like you see a lot of people like, in one day, how much can I make doing this thing? And like, well, one day is not a measurable amount of success. Like, if you succeed wildly because of some quirk in your system where you've got a fan base who will jump on board anything you set up, then it's not a true measure of the sustainability of this project. But at the same time, the people who do like a 1 week or a month of trying to do a Shopify store, like a month, if it takes 3 weeks to set up, you don't get a true measure of what kind of success level to expect. Same with if you were to design a t-shirt line or a series of t-shirts. Take your graphic design skills and your quippy wordplay, create a design, jump onto a t-shirt printing site and build a t-shirt printing empire, as some people suggest is possible. Like, you're not going to succeed at that in the first week. If you give it 60 days, I think you can get a sort of a feel for what the traffic's going to be like. Because I feel like, in general, we have a tendency to look at the success or profitability of a job on the weekly, biweekly, or monthly income levels. So if you look at like the statistics for, they do it annually too. So if you look at the statistics on like US data for employment, there's some data out there that says visual artists make this much in a given year on average, which breaks it down. They then break it down and say like, which is this much per hour. And so if you really break down that data, like, that's a genre I may have to explore too, is according to US governmental data, the average hourly wage for visual artists is about $23 an hour. That's not a bad pay rate. But the question is, if you are succeeding at $23 an hour pay rate, how many hours are you getting? Because that calculation goes into how much you can earn in a year. And that, I see if I got that somewhere. I have that data somewhere. I recorded that. Oh, where did I record that? So, like, I do remember it's $23 an hour is the pay rate per hour that they said, but they also had data on the yearly yearly potential. Did I might have recorded that on see, like I need to be way better organized than I am. That's definitely going to have to be something I work on it in the future here. Okay, so we have no, I don't have it on these documents. So it's got to be in here somewhere. Pricing art. Art pricing, US statistics listing hourly wage at 25.56 in 2018. Annually comes out to $53,160 per year as a visual artist. So 53,160 divided by 26 to 25.56 means that 2,000 hours, 2,079.8 hours per year for painters are put in. So hours divided by 12. It's 173 hours a month. Divide that by roughly 30. That's 5 hours a day, or 5.7 hours every day for an entire year to get the $25 wage and an annual income of $53,160. So 5.7 hours per day isn't really too far removed from how much time you would throw into a decent sized painting. So that's a painting a day, every day for a year. Now, maybe you could keep up that pace. I don't know if I could, but maybe we could keep up that pace. And if you do keep that pace up, there's no indicator that you would be able to sell that work. So I think more probably what you're looking at is, because here's some of the other quirky data that when you play around with it, you're looking at $25.65 an hour. So let's just round that off to $26. Okay, so roughly $26. Now you could sell 26 times, you could sell a large painting, a decently sized painting, if you're really successful, for around anywhere between $5,000 to $20,000 times. So if we said you put 7 hours, what was it? 5.7 hours. $5.7 hours would be $148 painting. So at the hourly rate times 5.7 hours per day painting, that would be a painting for $148. Now, that's not what you're actually going to do. Most of your paintings, if you do a by the square inch calculation, which is really what you ought to do, most of your finished paintings are going to be in the rough range of, for the originals, $380 to $500 for a painting. Now, if you get really well known and become really successful, you can sell a painting for $11,000 to $20,000. That would be awesome to get to that point, because that would be one of those things that would make it possible for me to shift into the frame of reference for the 0 to 60K investing project. So every month, if I could sell 6 of those paintings in a year, 6 paintings at, say, roughly $7,500 would be $45,000 income for a year, which gets us actually not too far off what they say the annual income for a visual artist is. And that's, I think, where the discrepancy is going to come from. It's an average, so you're going to get to high-end sellers who are selling a $20,000 painting 4 or 5 times a year, skewing those numbers for the people who are selling dozens of $300 to $400 paintings every month. It's like you're going to just have this whole spectrum of things that tweak the numbers. But if you did $4,500 or $45,000 a year, that would be $3,750 per month. I could live off of half of that currently if I really was tight about it. And so that sort of venue of like half of that going to support my living costs and the other half about, what was that total? So $1,875 per month could go into investments like playing with the stock market, cryptocurrency, maybe trying out things like NFTs if they move over to a proof of work rather than a proof of stakes rather than a proof of work, because the proof of work is why digital art on the blockchain is so energy expensive that I cannot in good conscience do that. But if they switch over to a proof of stakes, then that drop it changes it up. It actually ends up being about 99% more efficient in its energy usage, and that may drop it. And that may be a video we do in that series of investing and side hustles and that kind of thing, is figuring out, does that drop it into a market range that's justifiable and something I can be comfortable investing in. So, I mean, that's sort of like the hope, is that, if you're able to sell paintings for $7,000 a painting and you sell 6 of them in a year, that's what, a painting every 2 months. And in a painting, you're probably going to put anywhere between 6 to 10 hours. So your hourly rate for the hours put into it are going to be much higher in that sense. But to be clear, what you're probably going to end up doing is you're going to be doing 2 paintings every month, and you're only going to be able to sell 1 per every other month. So for those 6 that you sell, there are going to be My brain's not up to it tonight. It's going to be 18 that you don't sell. But on top of that position of selling the originals for a given price, there's also selling prints and putting your stuff on merchandise. Now, if I could, as I said, get to a point where I could make, what was it? What did we say? 6 times 7,500. So if I could make 7,500 from 6 paintings in a year, that would be awesome. More likely is going to be if I get really successful at something like that. I won't even make $1,000 a month off of something like that. But it'd be really great. What's the number they gave us for the, okay, so the annual income of a visual artist being $53,160 a year. Divide that by 12. And divide that by 3. That seems almost more reasonable, where you can sell for $1,477 a painting per month. Or 3 paintings per month. So if you do 3 paintings at $1,477, you would equal what they say a visual artist's annual income can be. That seems a little more reasonable than the 7,000 to 20,000 that you can see some people getting as they get super successful. But I would almost imagine it being more along the lines of making 1,477 per month, not 3 each for that price. So if we did that times 12, annual income would be 17,000 a year, which is more than I currently make per year. And that, being able to move into that frame of living from the income I make from there would be the point where I could probably break away from the limits that are currently on me. Not sure though. I think I might need a little bit more than that. I would probably need to sell I would probably need to do 13 to 14 sales per year. So 20,674 would be 14 paintings sold in a year, divided by 12. That would be 1,722 per month, roughly. And that I think would be survivable. That would be scraping by. I would be able to achieve that in this area. Now I know out where you are, living would be cheaper. So that may be another thing to discuss in Opportunity Forge investing and entrepreneurship, is not only ways to make money and invest money and grow money, but also cut costs. Because one of the things I was talking with somebody not that long ago is, yes, you can invest in real estate as an investor, where you go in with a bunch of other people and buy rental properties like an apartment complex. And so you get a share of the collected rent from the whole complex with everybody else as part of your investment income. There's also Airbnb stuff, but you can buy a property and rent the property to people for income. And ideally, there's a part of it where, like, if you can get a 2-family dwelling, live in one, rent the other. That's smart. So the renters end up paying for your living space. The problem you come across sometimes with that is the difficulty in finding somebody to rent when you lose somebody or somebody leaves, and the repair and maintenance on the property gets more tricky. And sometimes there are situations where the money you need to get from rental is enough that it's limiting your options as to people who will rent. And my experience for managing properties for landlords that I've lived at before, where I write up the contracts for rentals of rooms on the property, a lot of that stuff becomes difficult because finding the person who's going to work for that space, not damage it, pay on time, and not be a problem for other people dwelling in the building, doesn't have pets that are going to urinate all over the carpets, or doesn't smoke in the house, those types of situations, screening, background checks, all of those things that are involved, it costs a little bit of money to do, and they take time. And half the time, people in those situations are looking to rent now. So they'll come in, they'll get, I'm the perfect person for this room, and you say, like, I have to do some check in the background. By the time you get back to them, half the time they've moved on. They found somewhere else to go. They're not looking to spend any more time dealing with you. And so you can actually be in that process for 1.5 to 2 months sometimes, if you're lucky, to latch on to a good person in that amount of time, or one that'll at least last you a few months until they have to go somewhere else and you have to restart the process. The caveat is, if you can find a way that the property is useful in between rentals, then you can actually benefit even more. So, like, if you have a dual family dwelling, you're renting one, you're living in one, renting the other, you're having living space paid for by the other renter, and when they're gone and you're looking to fill that space, could you Airbnb it out? Probably, and that'll help cut the costs of that space being empty. One of the other things you can do is, if you get the right kind of property, you can grow a lot of your own food on that property. So you're cutting the costs you spend on food, and you're doing it, basically, you're taking rent from your food. So instead of going to the grocery store and spending $280 a month on your food budget, you might only spend $80 a month on things that you can't do yourself at your own property. And so you're saving $200 a month by growing a lot of your own food, preparing it, storing it so that you have it, like canning it, freezing it, that kind of stuff. It can cut your costs. And if you can cut costs in other ways, like a wind turbine, some solar panels, some passive solar heating, not having to worry about some of the food waste being carted off as trash because you're composting a lot of that stuff. You can cut some of those other bills down to little or nothing. And it sort of helps offset the lag time between places. So, like, that's just some of the stuff that, like, I think would be fun to explore as we look into it. Now, Whether or not I can actually achieve any or practice any of those things is one thing, but it may be possible to sit down and do interviews and explore those opportunities with other people who can. So do an interview or sort of an educational thing about that sort of stuff. I'm starting to get a little hoarse tonight. We're about an hour in. I have had 3 hours of sleep, and I got a double shift tomorrow. So I will catch you later. Thanks for joining me. Take care, and have a good night. What's that? Yeah, stay safe in the storms. Ah.